Welcome to the Forger podcast, where I talk with cottage food businesses about their strategies for running a food business from home. I'm David Crable, and today I'm talking with Patricia Bedford. Patricia lives in Pflugerville, Texas, and mainly sells cupcakes and cakes with her cottage food business, Suga's Cakery. Patricia actually has an engineering degree and worked as an engineer for 10 years before she completely changed course and started her home bakery. She has gained quite a following over the past 5 years, and she is now in the process of building a food truck to expand her business to meet customer demand. And with that, welcome to the show, Patricia. Nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. Nice to be here, David.
So, Patricia, can you take us back to the beginning when you got started with this business? How did you get into this?
Okay, so it really didn't start off as a business initially. My grandma passed away. Her name was Suga. Her birth name was Josephine, but we called her Suga. And so, yeah, I just started baking as a way to bring the family together because she would bake and cook for the family, and she was the hub of the family. So I wanted to kind of take over that role for her. And so I started baking for birthdays and holidays and things like that. And decided to take decorating classes to try to ensure that my cakes looked as good as I knew they tasted. After a while, people were like, well, you got to stop giving your cakes away. They look too pretty and they taste too good. And so, it took a prodding for about a couple years because like I said, I didn't intend to start a business at the beginning. It was just more of a way to keep my family together. But yeah, after a couple of years in October 2014, I sat down one night and I made business cards and a website and got my food handler's permit so that I could be a Texas cottage law food baker or producer in Texas. So and that's how it started.
Yeah, so you started very organically. You already had a lot of people asking you to start charging. Did that translate when you started your business? Did you get quite a bit of sales when you got started, or was it a pretty slow start?
I had quite a bit of sales when I first started, but then I started here in Austin, but then I relocated to Dallas for work because remember, I was still working as an engineer. And so it kind of slowed things down because I relocated to Dallas. And so I had to kind of build a customer base there. And then I ended up coming back to Austin for another position in engineering. And then so I had to kind of reignite my customer base in Austin. And I found it was kind of easier to build a customer base back in my hometown of Austin or in Pflugerville rather because I knew a lot of people. You know what I mean? It was easier to develop word of mouth and everything, and have access to resources to help me build my business.
So when you started your business, were you actually still doing an engineering job? You did your job for a number of years before going full time into the business?
Correct. So yeah, I was still an engineer, a full-time engineer, while I was doing my business kind of on the side. So moonlighting, if you will.
That's kind of an amazing transition because I mean that's a big jump, right? From engineering to being a home baker. Does it seem like a seamless transition? Is there anything in your engineering background that helps you with your food business?
Processes. Like you have to be analytical. I feel like I have to be analytical and be kind of process oriented, especially when I get a lot of orders, you know, kind of that project management, side of engineering and being process oriented. I use that. I do troubleshooting as well. You know what I mean? So like if a cake comes out flat or something, you know what I mean? I have to think back, okay, what could I do to make this right? What do I fix? What do I tinker with to try to fix, the moisture of the cake or the density of the cake, things like that. Just general troubleshooting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I noticed you do a variety of different products as well with different recipes. It seems like you're always experimenting with new recipes. Is that your engineering background too?
Yeah. Because I think my natural knack to want to expand and not be afraid to be creative. You know what I mean? and try to use what I have, to do different things. So,
What kind of things are you creating or constantly working on in the kitchen?
well, first and foremost, like maybe like designs for cakes, not being afraid to, be creative with my designs, how I decorate. And then two, recipes, of course, because I started doing vegan and keto and paleo. And that's where the science of baking really gets involved.
Yeah, I noticed that you have a secret menu. Is that what you're referring to with the secret menu?
No. So the secret menu is just stuff that I don't advertise that I do. That gets into more like full bakery type stuff, like pound cakes and what else is on my secret menu. Just flavors that I don't generally offer to the general public, but if somebody asks me about it, I will do it. So, but no, I try to publicize the vegan, the gluten-free, the keto, and the paleo. You know what I mean? So that my customers with allergies and dietary restrictions can enjoy some sugar.
Yeah. So what are you currently selling in your business?
So I'm currently selling primarily cakes, and then I do cupcakes when I do events. And that's really where I became most popular because I would do events around town. So yeah.
Okay, so how long were you running your business on the side before you decided to take it full time?
About 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And when did you know that you were ready?
I guess when my mind just became so preoccupied with my business. That's when I kind of knew, I was like, yeah, I probably need to do this full time because I'm just really, that's where my mind is. That's where my passion is. I just realized I had a passion for it. Yeah, I guess about 2 or 3 years in, that's when I started to realize that I wanted to eventually make that transition.
How did you end up transitioning from your job to your full-time business?
So I was actually laid off from my corporate job after a big merger acquisition from the company that I worked with. And so that's how I transitioned. I just saw it not as a negative thing, but as an opportunity, a window of opportunity to go to my business full time. So, yeah. So that's what it was. It's just a window of opportunity. So I took it.
So you've become pretty successful over the course of the past 5 years of running this business. What is your customer base like today? Like, how often are you in the kitchen? How often are you running events? How often are you doing custom cakes or custom items?
I am in the kitchen literally every day. It used to be when I first got it started full time, I would go days or maybe even a week without baking, or having an order. But now I am baking just about every day. There's always something because I've been able to improve my online presence pretty significantly. So people find me on Facebook, Google, Yelp, all these different places, and they order from me. So yeah, I'm pretty busy these days, which is leading to the expansion.
Was that intentional? Did you start advertising on Facebook more or focus more on that, or has that just happened organically?
Well, yeah, no. I haven't really been advertising on Facebook. I mean, I did at the beginning a little bit, I just wanted to get more exposure through Facebook, but I actually stopped advertising on Facebook and just really focused on building my online presence online in general through Google, really. Yeah, so I created a Google My Business page, and which is just, the little page that comes up when you try to find a bakery in there or something in the area. And I started following up with customers and getting reviews, feedback on how their experience was with the bakery, with my bakery. So with that, people begin to find me online. And that's where I would say about 90% of my business comes from. It's from people finding me online that way. And that's how I've been able to grow my business pretty organically, actually. Yeah. Without really doing any ads.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool to hear that you did the Google My Business thing and then that's been helpful. And I actually didn't mean to say advertising. I really just meant to say posting on Facebook to try to kind of increase engagement.
Yes.
But it's interesting to hear that you tried Facebook ads and it sounds like that didn't work very well. Can you talk a little more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So back to the posting. Yeah. Posting on Facebook really works for me. That does drive traffic and gets me more customers. The advertising I did do on Facebook wasn't really advertising because I wasn't creating ads per se. I was just boosting a post, which is where you just go and you pay a few dollars, like $5, to so more people see your post. But that I realized that if I really wanted to advertise on Facebook, I would need to, spend a little bit money and more time creating an actual ad. But with me being on Facebook anyway and having a following, and being here in my hometown of, the Austin Metroplex, I just started posting my cakes more, and on my personal page and really crafting my personal page, my brand on my personal page towards the business. And I have a business page as well on Facebook. So I post on both pages. And then I got into groups like foodie groups, and I start posting my work on there. And that's what began to drive traffic organically, not through spending money on ads.
Very nice. Yeah, you seem a lot more intentional about the ways that you're kind of boosting your presence online. Have you tried Instagram as well?
Oh, for sure. Yes, I forgot to tell you about that one. I have an Instagram following as well that I've organically, grown as well. So I post there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that they're like one works better than the other? Does Facebook work better than Instagram or vice versa?
You know what? I've seen that Facebook works a little bit better than Instagram for me, but now Instagram is recently has started catching up with Facebook, or getting closer to Facebook. I wouldn't even say catching up. It's starting to work a little bit. I'm starting to get more orders from Instagram, but Facebook is definitely the place where I'm getting more orders if we compare the two.
And do you post your products directly on there? Like, can people buy your products through Facebook or through Instagram?
No, they can't buy them through there. But they can order. They can definitely order. Like, because I don't post links to click here to buy, or anything like that. I just post the product and people see it and they get excited about it and they send me a question or inquiry for an order, and then I take over the order process that way.
Okay, so you're measuring the engagement by just where people contact you.
Yeah, where people contacting me and the engagement on how many people are liking the post and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you've focused on in trying to, it seems like you've tried a variety of different strategies. Are you focused on anything else, or is there anything else you'd like to try, like Pinterest or something?
Let me think. No, I think I found my niche actually. With the Google My Business and the Facebook and the Instagram posts. I really feel like I found my niche there, And there's one more thing I forgot. So what kind of goes hand in hand with the Google My Business is having a website. So yeah, updating that website and posting pictures to that website and, generating content, for that website, fresh content for that website has really helped my online presence as far as like being pulled up a lot further in the ranks so that I rank higher than other bakeries, which is called search engine optimization, just knowing like, what to do to be pushed up in the rankings on on Google. So that's one thing which is a big part of me being contacted on Google.
So are you creating like blog posts on your website on a consistent basis?
No, not blog posts, just posting my work. That's it. Posting my work. And then if I'm going to be an event, I post the events on there, on my events tab. But yeah, or if my offerings change, like if I have a new flavor, I'll post that, or if I do a seasonal flavor, I'll post that. Just it, and the edits that I'm making are minor. They're not major things. They're not major overhauls like a blog post or anything like that. But if some type of media comes out, like like this podcast, I'll post a link to that, because Google sees that as content creation. So like, yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, and so have you checked your analytics, or have you looked at like Pflugerville Bakery and looked at that search term? Like, how highly are you ranked to be getting this kind of attention?
Oh yeah, I track that very often. So I go incognito on my tabs, because I want the search engine to see me as, maybe in a different, not a different location. But when you go incognito, I think that's what happens. It just does general search. So anyways, I search for myself, right? Or search for cupcakes in the area, or bakery near me, or, that kind of thing. And I rank at the top for a lot of those search terms, above and beyond places that have brick and mortars.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I could only imagine that that's due to either your popularity in the area or just through all the effort you're putting into your social media presence.
Yeah, I really believe it's probably a combination of both, but more so the effort I'm putting into my online presence on my website and my social media.
I feel like I saw something too where you said that you have more Yelp reviews than any other bakery in the area. Is that true?
No, not Yelp reviews. I would say Google.
Google reviews? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say more 5-star reviews. More 5-star reviews, to be specific.
Do you know how many reviews you have?
I have about 150 reviews right now.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Do you do anything to encourage people to leave a review?
I ask them. I simply just follow up and ask. Not everybody takes the time to go back and do the review. You know what I'm saying? Just for whatever reason, they get busy or whatever. Typically when I know that it has been a great experience for me and the customer, I just follow up, just follow through and just say, hey, how was your experience? And, would you mind just putting that out there by rating me on Google? So, most customers are so excited about, their experience and the product they receive, they oblige.
Yeah, that's really, really good information. I just want to steer back towards your actual product. What kind of custom cakes are you specializing in? Like, how custom designed are these products, and what do you typically charge for them?
The custom design, what I define as custom is anything that requires like use of fondant or, piping techniques or, any other medium like edible image paper or, just any other medium that I am using to decorate the cake or anything that I use to be more creative on the design of the cake. And typically people want an 8-inch round cake. That is the standard. Most customers are ordering that for their custom cakes. So I just really work around it. A very popular trend are drip cakes, like the white chocolate drip cakes, where you color the chocolate, whatever color that they like, and you drip it on the sides of the cake and, that kind of thing. For those drip cakes, I typically charge like $75 for an 8-inch round. And then for other custom cakes, it just really depends. Most of my custom cakes, since they are just 8-inch rounds, and most of my designs that I do, I consider them to be very, pretty basic. I don't know what it is. I think it's just, I don't know. I don't know if I've just gotten that much better or just what my customers ask for, but a lot of them are less than $100.
Yeah, so you might be selling more cakes that are like a more basic kind of design, but you're selling a higher quantity of them.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And what kind of, like, how long does it take for you to make a cake like that?
I would say give me about 4 hours from literally from start to finish, everything.
And if you're making multiple cakes at once, do you think you could do like 2 of the cakes in 5 hours, or is it like 4 hours each?
I could probably do 2 of the cakes in about 4.5 hours. Because really, I could push it. If I'm pushing it, I could probably do a cake in about 2.5, 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and baking them all at the same time,
Yeah. How has your pricing changed? Like, I imagine you weren't selling your cakes for $75 4 years ago.
Oh, no, oh no. I think I started off selling cakes for like $35. So yeah, it's definitely changed. And I think my cupcakes were like $1.50 or something, maybe $1.50, $2, somewhere around there. Now my cakes are $4 a piece.
Your
So
cupcakes, you mean?
yeah, cupcakes. Cupcakes are $4 a piece, and my cakes are a little bit towards more the $100 range.
And your cupcakes, that's a pretty good price. Are they like the larger kind of cupcakes?
They're standard size, but what I do is actually fill up the liners. So when they bake up, you get like this huge dome at the top, and you're getting more product.
I see. Yeah, that's a pretty good price. And now you do a lot of like keto, vegan, gluten-free. Are you charging more for those items?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's just per item. It's maybe like 30 to 50 cents more per item.
Okay. So not a huge markup there. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, I think $4 is a very good price. Like, when did you feel comfortable getting to that price? How did you know that it was time to move up into that price range, and was it uncomfortable to do?
Sure, yeah. So like when I went full time, I had to really look at my costs, my cost of goods, and really make sure that I was pricing myself market wise and at a rate to where that I could sustain myself, because now this was my living. You know what I mean? It wasn't just a hobby or a side thing. It was, how I make my living. So I really had to really sit down with myself and be like, okay, am I really charging for my time, my efforts, my premium ingredients? Am I charging what I'm worth and at a rate that will, pay for everything that's all my expenses and sustain me financially, So I did that kind of reevaluation when I got started doing this full time. And yeah, at the beginning it was kind of hard because I was like, well, at that point I think my cupcakes were $3 a piece, and my average cake I think was like $50, maybe somewhere around there. But then I was like, nah. After I did the calculations on my cost of goods, I was like, yeah, I really got to be selling at least $4 a serving, at least to be making profit and making enough money to where if I have, so many volumes of cake, 15 to 20 a week, then I can actually live off of this business.
Right. And I'm sure the cupcakeries, the commercial bakeries in the area, they're selling their cupcakes for $4 each. So
they're about $3.50, $3.75 for a basic cake. So I'm a little bit over, but I mean, $3.75. That's right at that's about $4.
So I think a lot of people, they get worried that when they're going to increase their pricing, that maybe customers are going to be annoyed or upset. Did you find any pushback when you increased your prices?
No, it was a gradual thing, really. I just, one day I just did it. I mean, yes, I have had maybe like a number of people I can count on one hand, and it wasn't old customers. It was new customers. They were like, well, that's too expensive for a cupcake. And I was, I'm like, well, it kind of is what it is. It's what covers my costs. I have to charge what it costs, or else I'm not going to be in business. So actually, it wasn't that hard. It really wasn't that hard. It was just, recognizing that what I need to make, what I need to charge in order to be in business and to be able to make money from this business.
Right. Well, and you've certainly done well enough to start to expand your business. I know you've run a Kickstarter campaign. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I actually purchased a food trailer, a 17-foot trailer about a year ago, right? And, I purchased it, but I didn't have the money to actually get it on the road because, purchasing it and then, doing the build out and getting all the inspections and the permits, that's like two different things, right? So yeah, I had been sitting on this trailer for almost a year, and when I got it, I was like, well, how do I get the money to do the build out and get this on the road? because while I'm profitable in my business, I make enough money, just to sustain this business and, kind of pay myself, you know? So there wasn't much wiggle room to, start funding a new venture and pivot the business, right? So even though I was getting more popular and gaining more business, it was just in the last years after, transitioning to full time, it was just, getting to a point where I could sustain the business on its own. So yeah, I decided like 8 months ago to do a Kickstarter campaign. And I did a lot of research on how to do an effective campaign and, what it all entails. And basically, it's a massive marketing campaign, It's not just posting a link in a story and saying, please, donate. It's asking family, friends, colleagues to back you and getting them to get behind you on your venture, right? And so that's what I had to do. I had to come up with a story, not come up with a story, but tell my story in a way that people could read it and understand it in a concise, and tell in a concise manner. And then I had to also create a video that displayed what I was doing and why I was doing it and, how their backing would help me, how their donations would help. So yeah, I put all that together and I started, like I said, I spent a couple of days just calling people and Facebook messaging my followers and my friends and family. Literally a couple of days. It was about a list of 300 people that I was contacting and asking them if they would, help me with this project to be able to get my trail on the road. And so once I got those pledges, a week later, I actually launched the Kickstarter. And then it was just a matter of people, coming through on their pledges. And that was it. I was able to raise because my aim was $10,000. That's what I aimed to raise. And I was able to raise that in about 4 days. The campaign lasted 30 days, but I raised what I wanted in about 4 days. And it was because I was able to get the pledges before the campaign even launched. And so even at that point, once the campaign launched, I still had to follow up with all those people and let them know this is the link and this is, the campaign is live if you are still able to donate to back the project. So.
Yeah, no, I've seen this Kickstarter campaign and it's a legit campaign. You have a very professional video. Did you pay for that video?
Yeah, I paid a videographer to do it for me.
Yeah, it's a really nice video. Like, what do you think you invested in terms of money into this campaign?
Let me see. So the video was $500, and so I have customers on the video eating my cupcakes. I wanted to get footage of that, so I had to make about 150 cupcakes that I gave to the people who who came out and enjoyed the cupcakes on footage. So that was another investment there, and then the rest of it really was just time writing and making, trying to convey a concise message, that people could understand and relate to,
And you kind of undersold yourself. You've made more than $10,000. What have you made with the campaign so far?
So the campaign is over. It ended July 4th. And the total was about $17,196, I believe.
Very impressive. Congratulations on that. That's a very, very amazing. Yeah, that's quite a success. And what does that mean to your initiative? You're asking for $10,000, but was that enough to cover your costs?
Yeah, so really I needed a little over $16,000 to cover my costs. But I was afraid, I wasn't sure. I'd never done this before. And Kickstarter is all or nothing, meaning that if you raise the money that you set out to raise, you get the funds. But if you come up short, you don't get anything. They just refund your backers. So to play it on the safe side, I actually set it at $10,000 instead of $16,000, hoping that I would at least if I got at least $10,000, I would have some money, and then maybe just find a way to get the rest of the money. But no, the Kickstarter, went past my wildest dreams, and I got $17,000. So, yeah.
And what if you'd only gotten, say, $10,000? What would you have done?
Well, I'd actually been talking to some friends, helping me out with maybe a small loan. So they said they would have stepped in and, helped me come up with the money for a loan so that I'd be able to still get it on the road. So yeah, I still have backing from family and friends on that.
Nice. Well, it's wonderful that you don't have to take a loan now.
Right, exactly. That's the thing. I don't have to take that loan. I will be able to do this without that debt. Now, granted, I still owe on the trailer. I did receive a loan on the trailer to buy the actual trailer, so I'm still working on that. But as far as getting on the road, I don't have any debt on that. So I figure though I should be able to get the loan for the trailer paid down pretty quickly.
And with Kickstarter, you have to typically give people something in return for their donation, right? So how did you decide what kind of incentives to offer people?
Yeah, so I just looked at other Kickstarters and saw, other successful Kickstarters and just kind of saw what they were, giving. So like typical trend was T-shirts, so of course I was like, I got to do T-shirts, do some swag, and I know that a lot of people that, follow me and everything typically want a product because that's a typical trend for successful Kickstarters is that they give away products. So, and I know that people who follow me, they would love, free products. Or I felt like they would love free products. So that's how I decided to do, what to offer as far as, the rewards is a mixture of swag and product. Yeah.
So what, like, are you selling cupcakes or something? Like, what do people get for donating a certain amount?
Yeah. So like for a $50 donation, I think if I remember correctly, I did like 3 dozen cupcakes or 2 dozen cupcakes, maybe it was probably 2 dozen. 2 dozen cupcakes or a dozen, some amount of cupcakes. I don't even remember. Don't give me the line. It was like a certain amount of cupcakes, and it just kind of increased depending upon how much you gave. I also think I put in there like an apron, a T-shirt, depending upon how much you back the project. I think for a $300 donation, I actually will be doing a baking class, a cupcake decorating and baking class on my trailer when I open. And then I think for like the higher ones, like $1,000 and $2,000 ones, I think they're like cards for like cupcakes for life and cupcakes for a year. So yeah.
So how did you decide to go the food truck route, right? Because a lot of people will open up a commercial bakery shop, like a brick and mortar. Why did you think you would want to do a food truck?
Yeah, sure. So I felt like trying to go from a home bakery to a brick and mortar would be a bit more difficult because of the overhead for commercial space. You know what I mean? Typically, commercial space, you have to pay thousands of dollars in rent per month. And with me just being at this stage of growth, I thought that a trailer would be a nice next step instead of jumping into a commercial space that required, thousands of dollars in rent per month. So I thought that a trailer would be the next step because it has a lot lower overhead.
You're just getting started with this. I don't think you've actually launched the food truck yet. Like, do you feel like it's a little bit of a risk? Like, do you wonder if you're going to be able to make that jump from your current home business to funding and running a different type of business like a food truck business?
Yeah, with any pivot, I think in a business, there is a little bit of a risk that exists. But I'm more on the optimistic side of that because I feel like I'm going to be doing the same thing I did at home, except now I'll just have a place where people can come and pick up their onesie, twosie cupcakes. Because typically my minimum order on my website is 24 cupcakes, right? Because I make everything in batches. And I don't have like a brick and mortar or storefront for people to come every day and buy them. So I have to make them in batches and stuff, because I want them to be fresh. And not that they won't be fresh, when I get into my trailer, but I can make a bunch of cupcakes and have people come by on a daily basis to pick those up and eat them, So yeah, like I said, I feel like it's just an extension of what I'm doing already. So I'm really optimistic about it.
Is your plan to set up your food truck in one specific place, or are you planning on moving around and like texting people or sending out a message on Facebook announcing where you are that day?
Yeah, so this will act as a brick and mortar, meaning it'll be a permanent location. So I won't be moving the trailer around. It'll be like my brick and mortar that people can visit and know where I am, when I'm open.
And how did you determine a location, or what was the permitting like, or what is the permitting process like for that?
Yeah, sure. So I have been thinking about this food trailer situation for a little while, right? For like, I would say since even before I left corporate America. And I had been scoping out places to put my trailer since then. And I came across this place a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, that would be a fantastic place. It's kind of an empty, grassy lot between a church and a Mexican restaurant here in Pflugerville, in downtown Pflugerville. And I was like, man, that'd be an excellent spot because it's, right off one of the main arteries in the city in downtown Pflugerville. Lots of people who want to go in and go out and get to other cities come by or pass by this lot and, this street to get in and out of the city. So that'd be a perfect spot. So I did a little research on how much it costs to be there or to purchase the land or who owned it or, trying to figure out how to get there. And with the land, it was like a few millions of dollars to purchase that land. So I was like, well, I had that up. That's not going to work. But long story short, I end up getting in contact with the new owner of the land. That wasn't the owner a couple of years ago, the new owner of the land. And they actually wanted to start a food truck park on the land, just so as it happened. So I was blessed with be able to put my trailer there.
So are they charging you rent to be there, I assume?
Yes, they will. They're going to start charging me rent once I open up.
And what are they going to be charging?
I'm not really sure. It was like, I was told that it would be like $100 a month, which is peanuts, because it's a new thing. And the owner is not supplying any water, any electricity, any marketing, any advertising, any signage, nothing, just a lot. So that's why it's so cheap. We're in charge of basically getting all that stuff together for our trailers, because it's me and like 2 or 3 other trailers that are going to be there. So we have to do all of that. I think it may increase. We may end up paying the owner more just as we start, getting in business and start selling more, selling to the public, just to help the owner out because she's helping us out,
Yeah, and that might be a good win-win where you're actually able to jumpstart their business to bring a lot of your current customer base to this lot and maybe establish their own business as well.
For sure. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is it taking to get this food truck equipped? Like if somebody's interested in starting a food truck, what do they need to think about? Like you purchase this generic food truck, but I don't know if it was a baking truck. Like what are you having to actually invest in this piece of equipment?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So like I had been looking for a trailer since I guess after I got laid off in 2018. So maybe about the summer of 2018, maybe May, June 2018 is when I started looking for a trailer. And a lot of food trailers, they're designed for frying foods and making hamburgers. So they have flat top griddles and frying mechanisms, But I was specifically looking for one that was crafted to be bakery, which is really hard because most food trailers these days don't, they're just not. They're making, they're usually making pizzas or some type of fried food or whatever. So I searched high and low. I searched all over the country, online, trying to find one that, had been already built for being a bakery. And I found one right here at home in Austin. It was already electrically outfitted, so it had outlets and power and lights. Well, not power, but lights and, a triple sink and a hand washing sink, because the lady that sold it to me was going to use it to bake. But she changed her mind. She was going to retire. She was, decided, well, I don't want to work that hard, so I'm going to sell it. And so that's how I happened to come across it. So, yeah. So if I wasn't able to find one, then I would have just bought an empty one and outfit it myself. But I just felt like I was going to be able to find one, you know?
And this is a 17-foot trailer. I mean, what did that cost to get that used trailer?
I think it listed around 16,000. I was able to negotiate it to 7,000.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, so a pretty significant investment, but still nothing compared to doing a brick and mortar.
Exactly.
And also you are going to be able to move beyond the limitations of the Texas cottage food law by doing this. Right, you're able to sell other kinds of items. So what sort of things are you going to be able to sell once you are not using your home kitchen anymore?
Sure. I have a lot of requests for tres leches cake. So I will start making that. Let's see what else would I make. I'll start making banana pudding. But these are things that have to be refrigerated, you know, and under the cottage law, you can't sell them because they have to be refrigerated. So yeah, I'll sell that. I'll sell beverages. Maybe even dabble in a little cheesecake too, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting move for your business, and I wish you all the best as you explore that. I know it's a lot of work, but it's very cool to see. I mean, you have a lot of customer base already, and I'm sure it'll be very successful.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Patricia, we've been talking for a little while, but before we jump off, I just want to ask why you love running your cottage food business.
I love to serve. I love to make people happy, you know, with my offerings. That's why I love it. I love to see people's expression when they get their custom cake or their cupcakes or, you know, after they've eaten, you know, my product. It's a very fulfilling thing for me. So I get a lot of fulfillment out of that, and that's why I do it.
And I did actually want to ask, I know that you did this business kind of in memory of your grandma, Suga. Are you actually using any of her recipes, or is it just in her name only?
Yeah, so it's really in her name only. When she passed, I believe I was about 18, 19 years old. And you know, I didn't have a chance to write them down or, you know, anything like that. So she taught me a lot because I watched her make cakes. That's all the care that she put into making the cakes through tasting all the ingredients and, you know, being diligent about checking the cake so it wasn't overbaked and everything like that. So that's what I take from her.
Well, thanks so much, Patricia. Where can people find you and get in touch?
Sure. So they can visit my website, sugascakery.com, SUGASCAKERY.com, or they can find me on Facebook under the same name, Suga's Cakery, or on Instagram, Suga's Cakery. And then about mid to end of August, they can find me at 301 East Pecan Street in Pflugerville.
And I'm just remembering, I always like to ask, are there any stories that you can think of in the past few years that jump out at you as being a particularly memorable experience that have come through running your cake business?
Let me see. There's been so many experiences, you know? Yeah, I delivered this volleyball cake to a lady at like an arcade, right? She saw the cake and she literally just started, you know, just crying tears of joy because she was like, it was so beautiful and it was just perfect for her daughter. And she was really thankful that I was able to do it for her, you know? So that was a memorable moment, you know, that really touched me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's very exciting to see where your business is headed, and I wish you all the best.
All right. Thank you so much, David. I appreciate your time and having me on the show.
That wraps up another episode of the Forager Podcast. I really enjoyed hearing Patricia's journey from engineer to home bakery to now a food truck, and it was also cool to see how she's leveraged some online marketing strategies to become one of the top-ranked bakeries in her city. If you are thinking about starting a cottage food business, head on over to Forager.com to check out your state's cottage food law. For more information about this episode, go to Forager.com/podcast/14. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.